Hey guys, Morley here. Today I'm going to be using a Kyogre team built by Kiby. He streams on twitch.tv and he uses this team a lot. And I wanted to share this team with you guys. But me not having the rental code is intentional because I didn't want to steal his thunder. So if you guys are interested more on the details of this team, go check him out. He is fluent in both English and Korean, but he does have a lot of Korean viewers on his stream, so if you go there, do keep that in mind. As a quick summary, I have the Assault Vest Kyogre, Water Urshifu, and the Mimikyu. That combination trades really well. Zapdos is a good lead, and Ferrothorn covers Rillaboom, which would massacre the Mimi Ogre Urshifu core. I use Urshifu lead, Kyogre, and Zapdos because each one of them deals good damage to basically everything on their team. I did get a bit of a misclip there, but I do lead the Water Urshifu, he leads Lapras, he just turn 1 Dynamaxes, and I go for the close combat here, which is going to be super effective and should be doing a lot even with the Dynamax HP. It surprisingly did little damage, but thanks to the first crit, I should be able to get the KO here on the Lapras. Yeah, I could Aqua Jet here, but because I am afraid of a potential sub on the Aqua Jet, that could be really game breaking, so I'm not gonna risk that for just a little bit of 10%, 5% chip with the Aqua Jet, so I just let him go for the Behemoth Blade. I do go for the Zapdos here, but in hindsight, it was, I think, a bit of a misplay. Because Water Spout with regular Scarf is 150 base power, that one-hit KO Zacian without the Aurora Veil. So if I Dynamax and go for the Max Geyser twice, that should 2-hit KO. On the other hand, if I go for the Airstream and Max Flare, there's no way that's going to be a 2-hit KO, so I'm going to be forced to rely on a static para, so I do Dynamax here, but that's still going to be not a good damage trick for me because of the Aurora Veil. Fortunately, I do get the para on the first try, so I'm going to be Airstreaming, and that does very little damage. But because I got the Paralysis, I should just be able to do Max Flare and bring a Kyogre and be able to revenge this Zacian. he copies Kyogre with his Ditto. He does have the Veil Up, but I have the better HP stat. I also have the power of Assault Vest. So this is a close one. He does get to attack first, and that means that he does get the higher paralysis chance. He goes for the Thunder. Of course, we are going to be trading Thunders. That does below half for him. And that does a below half for me too, but this time I get the Thunder Paralysis as well. And now I'm faster than the Ditto. So Ditto needs to land a Thunder Paralysis of his own, but he does not get it, so that is going to be GG. It worked out very lucky for me, but I definitely do think it was better if I went Kyogre first, trade with the Zacian, then he copies my Ogre, and I beat the Ogre with the Scarf Zapdos. So yeah, that was definitely a lot better play. Second game is going to be a very interesting Calyrex-Shadow Rider team. You definitely don't see this Mon a lot, but it is threatening on its own right, and I do have the Mimikyu, but it is only one real hard counter. So let's see what he brings here. I do think Zapdos is really good offensively against basically his entire team. And I'm going to be bringing Mimikyu with the Ogre because I'm a bit scared of the Calyrex there. So let's get into it. So he does lead Calyrex. He should one-shot my Zapdos if I go for anything else. So in order to prevent that, I just go for the Max Airstream turn 1. And I should be able to trade this Dynamax with quite a bit of HP on my Zapdos with the Calyrex. So this is not a terribly bad turn for me. He does Astral Barrage, yeah, that does way over half with the Life Orb. And yeah, you need the Life Orb in order to, if you want to max with the Calyrex-Shadow Rider, and Max Phantasm will one-hit KO Zacian. So I just go for 2 Airstreams here. He brings in Ditto here, but I am just able to go for the Max Lightning. He should be doing a reasonable amount of damage, and he'll go first before me, but I should be able to KO him. If he doesn't Dynamax, of course, so he does Dynamax here in order to save the Zapdos. And what is very concerning at this point is that he almost certainly has a Rillaboom in the back in order to counter Kyogre. So let's see how this works. I am going to just go for no, this is a speed tie. He does get the speed tie win, but it doesn't matter because he does not get the KO. So what that means is that because my Zapdos took away 2 turns of my opponent's Dynamax, this is way much easier for me to stall out all 3 turns of Dynamax here. I do get this Scarf, so I will be faster than the Zapdos. The Ditto, I mean. So I think I am going to go for the Heat Wave because I don't want to Volt Switch and take unnecessary damage on whatever is in the back. This Zapdos is way too low for me to do anything useful with. So I just Phantom Force. That should KO the Zapdos. He cannot Roost or Max Guard or anything like that because I know the exact set. He is my Scarf Zapdos. However, he does have the Rillaboom in the back, and this is pretty bad for me. I'm going to be losing this one. And this is, I guess, a bit of a lesson in that I basically picked Kyogre just because it's still restricted. I had an idea of why I wanted to pick Zapdos because I wanted to lead Dynamax with it, and I had an idea for why I wanted to pick Mimikyu. But I didn't have a really good reason to pick Kyogre, knowing that my team is relatively weak to Rillaboom. So I should have either brought Ferrothorn, or actually another thing that I could have done is just go for the Volt Switch into the Mimikyu, because again, Mimikyu was brought to counter Calyrex, or at least revenge it. And that would have made it a lot easier for Zapdos to actually check the Rillaboom. This game, my AV Kyogre has a really fantastic offensive matchup. It gets to basically trade 1v1 versus everything on his team. I am going to pick Ferrothorn because it has Power Whip and is able to check Kyogre in an emergency. It also beats Quagsire. I am a bit concerned about it potentially having Water Absorb because his team looks otherwise so Kyogre-y. Zapdos is able to revenge kill Cinderace and Kyogre and has a good general matchup with everything other than the Tyranitar, which gets countered by both my Kyogre and my Ferrothorn. So I do get a Kyogre lead mirror matchup here. I do go for the Max Lightning here on this turn, but maybe just going for the Thunder could have worked out okay as well. However, going for the Max Lightning does not get the KO, but at least that is going to minimize the amount of damage my Kyogre takes. I do go for the Max Geyser because that was also going to KO, and that covers any potential switch-ins by hitting everything the hardest. he does go for the bounce here, trying to stall out the final turn of my Kyogre's Dynamax. It's a smart play, but in case I survive, I'm not sure if I can survive or not, but Thunder is going to hit the Cinderace super effective thanks to the flying type. It also does not have a chance to miss, unlike Origin Pulse. And Kyogre, with zero physical defense investment, just tanks that like a boss, and he gets a crit on the Focus Sash, which does not matter, but he gets the paralysis on top as well. So that is pretty absurd. I do think about trying to preserve this very low HP Kyogre, but I don't think the risk is worth it. He does have Sucker Punch, makes a lot of sense on a Sash set, and he gets to KO my Kyogre. Here I'm just thinking about what exactly I should go for. Should I Volt Switch out, U-turn out, go for a Heat Wave? Lots of things to be thinking here. And eventually I do go for the Volt Switch here. But he forfeits. A bit of a premature forfeit, I think. But, I mean, we take those. We have a very interesting team from our opponent. He has a Shedinja, which hard counters Kyogre. He also has a Seismitoad that could also be water absorbed, and that would also be a very strong Kyogre check. On top of that, he has the Kyurem-White, which resists basically every move Kyogre could go for except Ice Beam. I am still going to be bringing Kyogre because I'm going to be able to force a lot of that on him. And it is able to beat Kyurem-White as well as the Blacephalon, which are the two things that Ferrothorn needs to really watch out for. Here, I do lead the Ferrothorn here, which is very good, and Whimsicott can do very little about this. And I unfortunately do not have Gyro Ball, but I am still going to get a favorable Pokemon trade here. I am going to get a Mon lead, which is a really good thing, devastating thing for a trading team like mine. And because I do not have Gyro Ball, unfortunately I do have to go for the Body Press here again, and that means that my Ferrothorn is going to be taken a lot lower. So I do get to KO the Whimsicott here, and I will get to see exactly what he brings. Does he bring in the Blacephalon, or does he bring in Kyurem-Black? Both are quite good options for him, but I am fine with that because I am going to be able to switch back out into the Kyogre. And with the Assault Vest, even with the typing disadvantage not going perfectly in my favor, that is not the end of the world. I do go hard into the Kyogre, expecting a Fire move. Either the Fire move or just a straight up Ice Beam, which he goes for here. And he reveals the Life Orb and the Tailwind peters out. And the big reason I did save the Ferrothorn there was I wanted to see exactly what he had. So this is thinking either he Dynamaxes this Kyurem, or he switches out into his Kyogre counter. I didn't want to Dynamax into a potential Shedinja switch in, for example. So Ferrothorn would beat that. So I do go for the double. It does not work out, and he does not Dynamax either, so that was well played by him. But now with that information in mind, I do feel a lot more comfortable just Dynamaxing this Kyogre. And that is a Life Orb Kyurem-White, and that does pitiful damage. I go for the Max Geyser here because that is the strongest attack. I do have the stab and the rain boost, so 1.5 times 1.5 is greater than 2. So that's why it is a bit better, stronger than Hailstorm, which is also lower base power on top of lower modifiers. He realizes that there's basically no way he can KO the Kyogre with 3 max Drakes. So he does the smart thing, which is going for the max Quakes. And that will let him survive more of the Kyogre's assault. The rain runs out here as well. With the rain removed, I do go for the Hailstorm, trying to push every bit of possible damage onto the Kyurem. I am still a bit short of the KO, unfortunately. So this will mean that he will get to KO this Kyogre. But on one hand, I am also a bit scared if Mimikyu can 1v1 whatever his last is. The only thing that Mimikyu loses in there is the Corviknight, which is still very possible. I go for the Mimikyu switch in. Both Earth Power and Draco Meteor would not KO the Mimikyu, and in case of Earth Power, the Life Orb recoil will actually knock it out as well. And on top of that, I do get the double into the Seismitoad, which works out perfectly in my favor. I'm able to just get a Sword Stance up against this Seismitoad and sweep with the Mimikyu here. Unless Scald Burns here, but let's see what he has. He has Liquidation, so that is a physically offensive Seismitoad. So I'm able to probably just knock out both the Kyurem and the Seismitoad here. I will go for the Phantom Force. And he forfeits the game, so good game. Here we face another Rillaboom. He has Rillaboom, Hippowdon, and Kyurem-Black, so we know what we're dealing with here already. I do want to bring in Kyogre for the potential Hippowdon lead, but we know better than to leave our Rillaboom checks behind this time, and I will be covering that up with the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn should also be able to check the Kyurem-Black, and Mimikyu is Mimikyu. After all, it is very good at everything. It is also faster than Kyurem-Black, so I should be able to offensively threaten it, on top of Ferrothorn checking it defensive. I do get the Kyogre versus the Zapdos lead here, but because I am Assault Vest, I'm just going to go for the Ice Beam here. If he goes for anything other than Max Lightning, this is favorable for me. And very few of them actually go hard Max Lightning. So he does go for the Ice Beam here. No, I go for the Ice Beam into the Ferrothorn, so Water Spout would have done a lot more actually. But I will take it. I didn't want to just attack into a Thunderbolt and do no damage with the Water Spout. That does over 50, that is physically defensive. That's why you usually want to run specially defensive Ferrothorn if that is your main Kyogre check. Fortunately for him though, he does have both Ferrothorn and the Rillaboom, so this should not be game losing for him. I could have gone into Ferrothorn there. I kind of do regret that decision, but I am okay with just scouting for the potential Protect. Usually physically defensive Ferrothorn will not carry Protect. Especially defensive Ferrothorn usually does, because it is actually not to a KO'd by Water Spout. Here a bit too late, but I do go into the Ferrothorn here. My Iron Defense plus Body Press that should win 1v1 against his. He has revealed enough about the set, especially after the Stealth Rock, that I felt very confident that he was going to switch out. There's no way he has only attacked Body Press, you know. I go in for the Kyogre, a bit of a risky switch in, but I am able to switch in potentially on either a Hurricane or a Heat Wave. Heat Wave would be ideal. I do Dynamax Max Geyser, that should 2-hit KO the incoming Ferrothorn. And if he just goes for a regular Thunderbolt, that should also KO him as well. Unfortunately, I did hit myself in confusion there, so bit of an unlucky turn for me, because this now, he will Leech Seed, and protect and stall out all 3 turns of my Dynamax. Fortunately, I do get this big geyser damage off, so this Ferrothorn is going to take irrecoverable damage. He goes for the double protect, like, come on. But I do get to take out this physically defensive Ferrothorn, which means that Mimikyu is going to have a clear path to victory. He seems awfully scared of staying in with his Zapdos against the Kyogre. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm just going to go into the Ferrothorn on the obvious Volt Strike. And that should mean that Fusion Bolt, Kyurem-Black does not get Bolt Strike. But with this, I am able to either secure a sack or threaten out the Zapdos or force out a Dynamax in some way. So I do go for the Leech Seed here. That does nail the Zapdos, so that worked out as expected. I'm getting a bit of a feeling that he is not Heat Wave, or either that or he has no intention of locking into it. Maybe he is Scarf on Zapdos or some other item. That does a ton. That is probably Specs on the Zapdos. And that is really bad because I just went for the Iron Defense and I did not expect the Hurricane to do that much damage. And even with the Leech Seed, that is nowhere but not enough. My Berry didn't activate either, which actually makes everything a lot worse. I do go for the Body Press, hoping that I get a miss. It seems Specs, so he is not able to change moves to Heat Wave. No such luck, so I will be forced to go for the Swords Dance with Mimikyu and try to clean up the game from here. Max Airstream here wins almost 100% though, so not expecting too much here. He goes for the Volt Switch though, which is a really curious play. This will let my Mimikyu go for a +2 Phantom Force on the Zapdos, especially because he is slower. And that should KO the Zapdos, which is sitting currently at 50%. I go for the Phantom Play Rough here. It is super effective, does as much damage as possible. He Dynamaxes this though instead of the Zapdos. I do get a crit, which also matters as well, but I actually have no sympathy for him because there was a very obvious Airstream win and he just simply refused to take it for whatever reason. So, I mean, getting unlucky, we can all empathize with that, but if you just don't maximize your odds, then, man, it really sucks to say, but it's also partly on you. I do go for the Phantom Force here, so that was a very bad play, which allows him to roost. And if he has a bit of a bulk investment on his Zapdos, which is very possible because it is slower than the Mimikyu, but he has a good chance to live. But he is no bulk investment, and that goes down to the Phantom Force. A bit sloppy, but I did want to share this with you guys instead of trying to wait for some perfect series of games. Until next time, bye!